Welcome to GeekSpeak, the show that brings you unscripted, unrehearsed conversations with interesting geeks from around the world. My name is Scott Barber. Let's see who I find today. So I'm in the back corner of the vendor area at Star West, and I've got Ole Lensmar with me. Now, for those of you who don't know Ole, this is one of the co-creators of Soap UI, which is wow, it's almost a cult product.
Yeah, it's amazing to be here and all these people. Oh, you did something.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the tool. It's so awesome.
So what's the story behind Soap UI? How did this thing come to be?
Well, I think it was really one of those classic open source things. You know,
Right,
I was an architect at an information broker company,
Right.
and we were architecting that. It was like this was like 2004.
Right.
And
right.
web services.
Every service oriented, everything. Nobody knew what it was, but everybody was doing it.
And
right?
I was the geek that loves open source, and then we needed a testing tool for the services we were building, and there weren't really any open source alternatives. I think the only thing we had was basically JMeter, which was more load testing, and from my point of view, wasn't the kind of tool I wanted. And I at this time we had our second child, and I was up nights, and so I need a hobby, right?
There you go.
While he's sleeping, waiting for him to wake up. So I started just coding that, and and then about a year later, it started to come into something that maybe this could actually be a product. So I started talking to Niklas, and he with his product view of the whole thing said, yeah, we could package this, and then we put it on SourceForge, and here we are now.
That's amazing. It's when I was growing up, right? If anybody thought, and this is even in the U.S., right, the home of the small business, right? That's not the model, right? The model is, you have a great idea, you get a patent, you get investors. It doesn't have to be that way anymore.
No, and I think that's so encouraging, and it's still like that. I mean, I see you see these kind of projects popping up all the time. Things that start out really small, someone just solves their own problem, and then before you know it, they just hit they have the right timing, the right stuff, and so and that's also what's always made me so nervous about this, because it's just like we were really just came at the right time. Somebody else could do the exact same thing, and even though we have this fantastic position on the market, you never know. So you can never really relax. You just got to.
I've told my clients for years, right? If you're going to market, right, you got to be first or best, and the scary part about that is if you're first, you become a target.
Yeah.
Right? Because then everybody gets to try to beat you based on all the lessons that you and they are learning at the same time.
Yeah.
Except they're starting from a clean slate.
Yes, they are.
So
I think what helped Soap UI was the big technology shift. Going to Soap. So there was a vacuum in that space.
Right.
And I think we've seen similar with REST now, but I think Soap UI is actually done REST for a while, and we're putting a lot of focus into that. But I think that's when the next shift comes in APIs, I would predict, like with going more to asynchronous APIs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's where I would be looking out. Is there some somebody just creates some tool and then it just gets following, or some big player picks it up. I remember so well when Hibernate came out, which is this created by Gavin King, and it was just it just came at the right point. It was picked up by JBoss. It was huge, and if you're a creative, a developer with a passion, and you have all the chance in the world.
This is true. And so, APIs really, there was a time when I kind of dismissed APIs, and don't get me wrong, it's not like I didn't think they were important, right? But as a tester, for the most part, they were just kind of another piece of the puzzle, right? Now I had to understand them. And there were occasions when I wanted to do testing, but it was more integration testing than I wasn't testing the component through the API so much as integrations was where I focused. But today, people are building entire applications that really all they do is ingest stuff from other people's APIs, and then there's this app. You can't just rely on that anymore. If you're a test-centered person, you really need to pay attention to this stuff now.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I try to push in my talk is also that APIs aren't anymore just internal, right? They're your company's interface or business interface
It,
to
it is the
customers.
interface, right?
So
right.
and that makes quality so much more important because and it also makes the usage so much more unpredictable. And
Right.
Because if it's internal, obviously you're in full control of the life cycle,
Right,
and the
right,
usage
right.
of the standards of the technology and everything. But if you have users out there that are just doing crazy
Doing
stuff and
whatever.
they want to, they have their mission to build their cool products, and
Right.
they're going to look at your API and they're going to look at a bunch of other APIs and they're going to choose the one that serves them best. And so there's and just to make that choice, that their evaluation of the quality of your API spans so much more than just functionality and performance. It spans, like I said today, I think the usability thing is it's not hard, but it's totally underrated. Because I think we're talking now usability of web UIs is a big thing, and user experience, but just the same, developer experience for those people integrating with those APIs. If there's any obstacle that another API doesn't have, they're going to go to the other one.
Right,
And
because
so you have to be, as a
because
tester,
if there's pain, if there's complication, then you're messing up time to market.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think that's I made that point so many times in my talk, so I hope people got it. But it's still something that maybe I'm wrong, but I have a feeling that maybe many testers still think, like you were saying, functionality, performance, and that's it. But to make your product successful, there's so much more to quality than those aspects. Right. And as a QA person, I mean, I would hope that you at least have that, even if that's not your expertise. You could say, hey, usability, we should think about this, and then you talk to the usability expert. You don't have to just so that bubbles up to the surface.
And the testing community is going through this growing pain, if you will, of the. I talk about it as it's actually a split.
Mm-hmm.
And there's really two totally different models out there. There's the I call it cloudy agile DevOps, right? But that kind of fast speed to market, integrated teams, right? And then there's your regulated kind of stuff where your formal test team is deliberately and sometimes by law separate, right?
Okay.
So a lot of folks that have grown up in a more formal space or in the middle are shifting over to this agile thing where they get the chance to work with developers, right? But they don't have all the different experience to know how necessarily to interface. And I see this, all this integration with APIs to be just a fabulous place for them to work together, because it's the developers that are working with the APIs, right? But I've always asked developers to be the creators, not the destroyers, right? We've got the destructive mind, right? So if we can spend some time together, whether I'm writing the code, you're writing the code, whether I'm generating the data and you're building the interface or whatever, but when we can work together as you're building this stuff in, right? Now we can do it's real component. It's real component testing. And we can do a really good job together when we share the tester brain and the dev skill set.
Yeah, I think you're on something really important there. I mean, we've seen it a lot where there's this divide between developers and testers, which is totally unnecessary, and it's counterproductive and everything. But it's also, once you get a skilled tester and a developer together to collectively sit down and do something, that barrier is going to fall really quickly, because they're going to realize, hey, this person really, they're passionate about what they're doing. We have the same common goal, and we have a lot to learn from each other. And just like, it's also really important, just like developers, as you say, when they test, they're validating that it works, right?
Yes.
And the testers, they're trying to break it, and that's a great yin and yang kind of cooperation around building great quality into software and components. I think there's so much to win in this transition to a more collaborative approach. And I understand it's hard. I mean, if you've been many years in this culture and that way of thinking, there are a lot of barriers. It's hard to change, but the possibilities are immense. So I'm just hoping, and
fingers crossed.
I mean, you made a great comment today in the session where someone asked about integration testing and unit testing, and you say, so what should we focus on? Should testers do that and coders do that? And you said, put them together, right? And put them next to each other. Let them help each other and understand. Maybe the testers don't have to write the unit test, but they can sit together and look at each other's stuff. And I'm sure in so many cases, if there is any barrier at all, that's going to dissolve, because they're going to be, hopefully, engulfed by the,
Well, once testers realize that they can really add value, right? And once the developers realize that these guys are here to help me.
Yeah,
Right? Now they want to work together. Now you can't keep them apart, right? So, well, hey, thank you very much for your
awesome
time. It's been a
meeting you
pleasure.
here. Okay, thank you
And until next time.
Well, that's it for this episode of GeekSpeak. I hope you'll join us next time. In the meantime, this is Scott Barber, hoping that you have plenty of GeekSpeak.